You guys are used to seeing very expensive builds on this channel. In today's video, we are not doing that. We are going to be building the ultimate sub $1,000 carry gun. This gun is going to have premium products on it that obviously do not break the bank at $1,000. It's going to be quite the challenge. This build needs to have obviously quality parts, be reliable, and have all of these components be under $1,000. To some of you that might seem unreasonable. $1,000 is a lot of money, but it doesn't really go far when you're building an ultimate build. So with that being said, let's go see what we can find. So last week we got a strike on this video, and this is us in the future filming a new segment, not showing you guys where we actually found the products. So today we're just gonna talk about the prices because apparently YouTube don't like us showing you where we found the stuff. Ultimately, I think the RXM is a better handgun than the PSA Dagger. That's not knocking the PSA Dagger. I think it's great for what it is. I think it offers a lot of value. There's a lot of aftermarket support. But in this case, I wanted to go with the RXM because I think it has a better trigger, better mag release, and overall, I just like the frame a little bit more. So with that being said, we were able to find the Ruger RXM with a threaded barrel for $429.99, which is actually not bad for a gun coming with a threaded barrel. If you look at a stock Glock, you're looking at like $620 without a threaded barrel. And then you buy a threaded barrel, you're looking at, you know, it ranges from $50 to $200 for a threaded barrel. So a lot more expensive and would definitely throw us out of budget. If you were looking at this for the PSA Dagger, price range would be similar, maybe a little bit cheaper. So you'd be able to throw on more accessories. But again, I think the RXM is a little bit better. So looking at red dots, I think the Holostone 407C is going to be the best bang for buck. I've had one for 7 years and put tens of thousands of rounds on it. It's been proven to me, it's been running great. And you can get it for $195.98, which is incredibly cheap for obviously a pretty good red dot. There's a lot of Holostone optics and it can be daunting to look through all of them. But with honestly right now all the sales going on, you could probably find a higher quality Holostone red dot. Not saying the 407C isn't high quality, but it is their more budget optic. Something like the 508T, which we have on a lot of our handguns, is a little bit better. Obviously costs a little bit more money and would throw us out of budget. Next up is going to be the TLR1. This is a great weapon light, and it's honestly fairly affordable for the amount of output you can get in both Lumen and Candela. It comes out to $168.52. You can find the TLR1 HL all over the pricing spectrum. Pretty much everywhere you can buy accessories, it's gonna be a different price, which is kind of unfortunate about Streamlight, but it allows you to shop around and find a really good price. There's a lot of lights you could have went with here. The TLR7 sub is a great weapon light. It's a little bit smaller, so the TLR1 is a little bit better in my opinion for a full-size gun. But the TLR7 HLX has the same output as the TLR1 HL. Both great weapon lights, just depends on form factor, what you prefer. The HLX is gonna be a little bit more money. And obviously, you could have looked at Surefire here, but unless you get the turbo, I don't really like any of the other X300s because they just don't have the output that the TLR1 HL has, and you're paying 3 times as much. So way out of budget for the turbo. And then there's lights like the mod light, which again is a little bit better, but more expensive. So we went with the TLR1 HL. And the last component we're going to put on this build is the Herrington Arms HC RXM compensator for $89.99. Obviously we make this compensator, so it might be a little bit biased, but I feel like this build is going to do a lot for us. It's going to allow us to be fast and accurate with a red dot. It's going to allow us to see our targets in the dark with a weapon light. And it's going to reduce recoil with a compensator. Kind of all the things you need to push speed, which is what I kind of want for this build. So this is gonna be a really great build. Unfortunately, there's not a lot of options for magwells or really many other accessories for this. It does use Gen 3 parts, which is nice, so you can change out the trigger, the mag release, and some other things. But there's some proprietary features for the RXM, like the magwell, that are gonna be tricky to find accessories for. So we actually came in under budget. If you wanted to put more money into this build, I would recommend getting a Glock mag with the Herrington Arms +5 extension. So this is going to give you a better magazine and give you extra capacity. That would throw us out of budget, so unfortunately we can't throw that in this build. But if you want to spend a little bit more money and take your build up a notch, I think that's a great option. So as you guys seen, we chose the Ruger RXM, which we have here today. This gun comes with a threaded barrel with the option we chose. You can also buy a Ruger RXM without a threaded barrel and buy an aftermarket barrel. I personally think this is the better option. I think True Precision makes a great barrel. It's a lot better than the OEM barrel that comes with this. And we've actually found that the OEM threaded barrel that comes with this has incredibly tight, I would say, out of spec threads. We've thrown thread gauges on these recently, and the go gauge will not go on, and the no-go gauge will not go on as well. So a lot of issues with these barrels with the thread sizing. However, we have multiple suppressors here at the shop, and the suppressors will thread on. So I think it goes to show that theoretically it's oversized. It doesn't work great, especially with the Herrington Arms HC RXM compensator. As I'll show you today, you kind of have to work it on because it's so tight. So keep that in mind when you buy this setup. This is a budget setup with a budget barrel. So what you're gonna get is, you know, out of spec tolerances or potential issues. I haven't seen any reliability issues with this barrel though, only tight tolerance on the barrel threads. Jumping into this build, we have the 15 round Ruger RXM. Nothing special here. What I like about the RXM though, over the competitor in the budget space, which is the PSA Dagger, you can throw this gun in a frame. It kind of pulls resemblance from the 320 with this FCU style system. So Ruger's gonna be making a 17 round Glock 45 style frame, and companies are already making aluminum frames for these. So if you wanted to do this $1,000 build and really take it up a notch in the future, putting in another couple $100, putting in an aluminum frame, so on and so forth, you can do that. So this build is scalable, and that's one of the reasons why I chose the RXM over the PSA Dagger. There's more reasons to it than just that, which we'll talk about here in a little bit, but jumping into this build, I think the first thing we should throw on is the Optic. Before we get to that though, I think it is really nice that Ruger gives you 2 PMags. PMags aren't my favorite, but at least they give you 2. Some gun companies only give you 1 mag, which is insane to me. And just a shameless plug, we do have a prototype here for the +5 extension that goes on the Magpul PMag. Not a lot of companies make extensions for this. One of the reasons why we didn't include it in this video. Just know that we are going to be having these out incredibly soon. We're already done with production. We're just waiting on them to come back from coating. So if you do want to put a +5 extension on your Magpul PMag for your Ruger RXM, go to HerringtonArms.com and see if this is here. If it's not on our site yet, subscribe to the newsletter. You'll be one of the first to know about it. So jumping into the Optic here, one thing I will say I really like about the Ruger RXM is its mounting system. Way better than some of the other budget options on the market, like the PSA Dagger, or honestly even the Glock MOS system. I'm not a fan of the MOS system. I have personally had too many issues with that, either snapping screws, bending plates, or optics not fitting properly, so keep that in mind. I actually really like this RXM system. You can see a lot of bolt patterns in here for a lot of different optics, so quite versatile. For this challenge, we chose the Holosun 407C with a red dot, not a green dot. I know it's personal preference, but PSA, I think red is a better dot color than green. This Holosun 407C, this specific one is new to us. We only have a couple hundred rounds on it. Since the start of the company, I've had pretty much this exact same optic. It's a different one on a Gen 4 Glock 19. I can't even tell you how many rounds, probably close to 15, 20,000 rounds on that build, maybe even more now that I think about it. And the optic's been fine the entire time. So very budget optic, really cheap, but it works. And I think that's what you're going for with a budget setup. What's nice about this is you just throw this on here. You don't need an adapter plate. You are gonna wanna pick out the proper screws that comes with this optic from Holosun. Do not use the screws that came with the RXM that mounted this little plastic plate on. They're probably not gonna be correct. So when you buy this Holosun, you'll get a lot of different screws. Make sure you just spend some time picking the right ones, because if they're too long, you either won't tighten down the optic, or even worse so, the screw is gonna be too long and it's gonna push on the internal components in here. Ruger does a good job missing most of those components. That was one of my complaints with the MOS system though, is if you had too long of a screw, it would actually pinch the ejector spring. I'm sure a lot of you have dealt with that in the past. Just a side note, make sure you spend some time on that, picking out the right screws. I could have went a couple different options when it comes to optics here. A lot of Chinesium optics on the market. Some are pretty good and some are really bad. I think if you want to spend very little amount of money, Holosun is the way to go for their budget optics. Holosun makes great expensive optics too, but the optic's proven. It's not gonna give you an issue because you can spend a little bit less money on a Gideon or even the first gen Vortex or the SIG Romeo, like the original plastic one. Don't recommend it. They're just gonna fail pretty quickly, or they're not gonna hold zero. And you may be thinking, well, I'm not gonna shoot that much, that's probably fine. Again, I just don't recommend it. This is what you're using as a sighting system. $160, I think is what this costs. Not a lot of money for what you get. Don't go with a budget brand. I just recommend Holosun as the very bottom of the barrel when it comes to optics. To me, one of the most important parts of a gun is going to be the sighting system, so don't cheap out on an optic. Should probably be the first upgrade you actually end up buying for your handgun. I could run this gun just like this for competition, concealed carry, and it would be fine. You could be very effective with this tool, both at distance, and the dot is gonna increase speed. We've done a lot of testing with this on our main channel. Dots do help a lot in terms of speed and accuracy. So this is the first upgrade I recommend you doing. If your budget stops here, let's say you have enough to buy the gun and the optic, this is where I would stop. This is the first thing I would do. If you have more money and you do have $1,000 to spend, next thing I would buy is going to be a weapon light. The TLR1HL is a phenomenal weapon light. 1,000 lumens, really good for this space for the price you pay. This is a larger weapon light. It's not gonna be tiny like the Streamlight TLR7 sub. You could have went with a TLR7 sub HLX, which is similar output and a little bit smaller footprint. I personally have so many holsters for the TLR1HL.
They're very easy to find at an affordable price point when it comes to holsters and stuff like that. So that's what I'm gonna be putting on this gun. I also really enjoy the mounting solution. It is semi-permanent, and you have a twist screw here. One of my biggest complaints with a Surefire X300, especially the quick detach version, is that honestly, it's just incredibly wiggly and loose on the gun. I don't like how much it rattles. And the output on the standard X300 is not very good. So you're gonna pay 3 times as more for a worse weapon light. The Surefire Scout is a great option, but again, it's just so expensive. So the TLR1 is gonna be a great price point, and it's gonna be proven reliability. I have dozens of the TLR1s, have had no issues with it. They work when I need them to work. Great weapon light, really good price point. I think adding it as the second most important thing on the build is critical, because right now in Ohio, it gets dark pretty early. Let's say it gets dark around 5 or 6. Most people are getting off work at that time. So the other half of your day, when you're carrying a gun, whether it's going out to the store, doing other activities, going to sports events, whatever, it's going to be dark outside. So having the ability to see in dark corners is incredibly important, because you shouldn't be shooting at something that you can't fully see. So that's why I think the second most important thing is going to be a weapon light. Moving on to the third and final thing that we had budget for, that is going to be the Herrington Arms Compensator. Obviously a little bias here, but I think when you shoot this gun stock in this configuration and then you throw a compensator on it, it's pretty clear that the benefits are there. You're getting recoil reduction, you're getting faster follow-up shots, and for the price point, you're getting a lot of juice for the squeeze, so to speak. This compensator does reduce a lot of felt recoil on the Ruger RXM. So shooting at the range today, it's actually been a while since I shot the RXM with the compensator. We've released a lot of new products lately, so it hasn't been our focus, and I was kind of blown away with how little recoil the RXM had with this compensator on it. Another thing I really like about this compensator is it fits seamlessly with the Ruger RXM. So it has slide fins on here, looks really clean, and for the price point, again, having those benefits of additional speed. Obviously, if the fundamentals are there, if the fundamentals aren't there, you're not going to get any benefits or very little benefits from a compensator. So the fundamentals have to be there for you to see those results. I think that kind of goes without saying. Most people in the industry know that now. One thing I do want to mention is if you guys want to see detailed instruction of assembly for this, go to the Herrington Arms warehouse page. We got a full install video, uninstall, and FAQ there. So you guys can learn more about that process. Another thing I said I was going to mention earlier is getting this compensator to thread onto this tighter, oversized thread barrel. What you have to do is you have to work it on. You have to sit here and basically go a little bit, turn, little bit, turn, little bit, turn. You'll feel it loosening up as it goes. You're just basically forcing it on there. What it's doing is it's kind of like forming the threads like you'd be chasing it with a tap. This is not going to hurt the barrel threads. Obviously, if you don't feel comfortable doing it, reach out to Herrington Arms support or take it to a gunsmith to have help installing it. You can see this one threads on pretty good. It does get tight about halfway where you really have to kind of crank on it to get it to work on. Again, this is just the oversized threads that we're seeing from Ruger, but we've seen this with budget brands. PSA is common. The thread barrel comes with the gun is oversized, and now we're seeing it with Ruger as well. So it's really nothing new to us, but for a customer, this might be a little bit concerning if you did not expect this to be the case. So if you are in this situation, slowly working the compensator on there, maybe add in some WD-40, kind of chasing those threads. If you don't want to take it to a gunsmith, you could do that. And then I recommend deep cleaning it and then, following the install process. So for this, I'm just kind of throwing it on here for you guys to see the ultimate build. What I will do later is go back and throw Loctite on all this, but I'm gonna save some time and not show you guys that. If you want to see that process, as I said, go check out that warehouse video. The reason the compensator is number 3 for me, honestly, just being transparent with you guys, is I think you're gonna see more benefits on the entire spectrum of your shooting journey with an optic first, a light second, and a compensator third. I think it would be ignorant of me to say, hey, you need a compensator first as a company that sells compensators. It's just, I'm trying to be truthful with you guys, and I think you do get a lot of benefits out of compensators, obviously. That's why we make them, that's why we've designed them the way we have, but the things that come first are the things that come first, and that's why this was third on the list. I'm really glad we could include this on this budget build, and we actually still had some budget left over. And if you're looking for, a budget mag extension to throw on there to complete the full $1,000, hey, I fully support that. If you wanted to spend a little bit more money and get a Glock mag, you can also run a Herrington Arms Glock +5 extension if you really want an extension for your budget build. But Glock mags are expensive, so that would have thrown us out of budget. Would have been a little bit over $1,000 with a 15-round Glock mag and an extension, but it's something to keep in mind. It looks really good on this setup. You're going to get the reliability out of a stock Glock mag. Not that the Magpul PMags are bad, but you know, they are really light. They're just not as good as a stock Glock magazine, so keep that in mind. Ultimately, this build comes in at just under $1,000, which I think this is a really good setup for somebody who's serious about shooting, has quite a bit of shooting experience. They can utilize the red dot, they can utilize the weapon light. They're skilled enough to have the fundamentals to reap rewards from a compensator. And this gun would be a great concealed carry setup. It'd be a great nightstand gun. You could even take the compensator off and shoot and carry optics, and this would be a great competition setup for a newer shooter. So a lot of benefits for this. And I think that's where we're seeing the RXM shine is you basically get a Glock at half price, which allows you to spend more money on accessories. I think that's a big benefit of the Ruger RXM. Another thing that's great about the RXM is it's a future-proof system. You could spend a couple $100s and get this really nice aluminum frame with great ergonomics if you wanted to make this a bedside gun or a competition setup. This frame adds a lot of value, but it's very expensive and obviously would not have met the budget. One of my biggest complaints about the RXM is that you cannot put a mag well on this gun. There is one built in, but if you're an aftermarket manufacturer like us, you would have a really hard time making a mag well for this because there's just no mounting solution for it. So that's one of the downsides of the RXM. It has one built in. It does the job, it's not perfect. If you're really somebody at the end of this video that is like, hey, I wish he would have chose the PSA Dagger, I kind of alluded that there were some more problems with that gun, and the reason I chose the RXM is because the PSA Dagger is not future-proof. You can't add an aluminum frame. The trigger on it is incredibly bad compared to the RXM. The RXM trigger is actually pretty good. And the mag release on the RXM, which sounds like a silly thing, makes a huge difference when you're doing a lot of reloads. It just not only feels like a better spring system, the button has better geometry, it's softer, all around, way better than the PSA Dagger. And you can buy an aftermarket trigger, you can buy an aftermarket mag release, but you don't really need to with the RXM. It's actually pretty good. So that's why I chose this system. There are more accessories for the PSA Dagger. Herrington Arms makes a mag well for it, a compensator, and obviously extensions. You know, you could choose the PSA Dagger. I don't think that'd be a bad choice. It is a pretty solid gun for the price. Honestly, in my opinion, I think the Ruger RXM is a little bit better. So for reference, this was what we started out with, a standard 9mm Ruger RXM with a threaded barrel. And then this is what we finished with. We got an Optic, compensator, a light, and you know, we spent $1,000 on this build. This gun retails for a very solid price point, allows us to do more things, allows us to be more creative, add more accessories that are ultimately going to give us benefits. So I think this was honestly a little bit of a surprise to me. I thought we were going to go over $1,000. Thankfully, we were able to find these accessories pretty cheap. If you guys wanted to step this up a notch, maybe look at getting one of the 508Ts, a little bit better of a Holliston red dot. Not that that's going to perform much different. I think it's just a little bit better of a squared off design, a little bit better of a window. And then when it comes to weapon lights, there is the Mod Light PL350, which is a great weapon light, very expensive, or the TLR1 HLX, another great alternative. And the Surefire X300 Turbo is probably last on my list. Very expensive. A lot of other weapon lights do the same thing on the market for less money. That's kind of my 2 cents on this build. I was shocked at the results. If you guys like this video, please like and subscribe. We'll see you next time.